Welcome to the Beatles News. Today is February 24th. We're looking at Beatles historical facts and trivia info over the years. On this date in 1943, George Harrison was born. Most people don't realize that because he was actually born just before midnight. So documents through his entire life have listed February 25th as his birth date, but he was in fact born on February 24th, and George even verified this in the 90s.
Isn't that something? He was the baby of the Beatles, actually.
That's right, he was.
Paul calls him his little brother. That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
What happened in '65 on this day?
Well, it was the first full day of filming their second movie, Help. They filmed for 9 hours, starting at 8:30 in the morning, and they did shots of the Beatles riding bicycles. And did you know, also, on this date in 1967, the Beatles were in the Studio 2 in London, and doing more recording. They were prepping and doing work towards the Sgt. Pepper album.
And Paul overdubbed his lead vocals, I think.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
On this date in 1969, this is quite interesting, Nemper Holdings was sold to Triumph Investment Trust.
Okay.
Now, Nemper Holdings, okay, that's NEMS, and Triumph now thought that they were going to be in charge of, you know, the performance royalties.
Right.
And the Beatles didn't like that, so Triumph now landed up suing them for over £1 million.
And what happened with that?
Or they seized over £1 million from the Beatles. But unfortunately the lawsuit kind of dragged out. I really don't even know the income.
It was £1 million of what?
Money. Royalties worth that they thought should be paid.
It's a lot of money. That's like $2.5 Canadian dollars, or 1.75 US dollars. I mean, whatever. It's a lot of money anyway.
Yeah. On this date in 1975, Elton John released his single "Philadelphia Freedom."
And I saw her standing.
Yeah, what was interesting is that the B-side was a live recording of Elton and John Lennon performing. This would land up being a recording of John Lennon's last live performance ever. Nobody knew that at the time.
No.
Of course, this would become a big hit. "Philadelphia Freedom" went on to #1 for Elton John.
I've got that actually on I have that. I had that on audio for like 25 years now. Do you know John, after his 1972 appearances, never wanted to perform live? He said again. For whatever reason, they didn't go as well as he thought.
He had a lot of bad experiences. I don't think he had that many successful gigs.
Not really. But see, Elton John basically, well, he's a good friend of his, and said, look, if whatever gets you through the night, which was John Lennon's new single, goes to #1, you have to promise me you'll join me on stage at Madison Square Garden. Well, guess what? Song goes to #1. John's committed to Elton now. And luckily, you know, somebody recorded it, and somebody even filmed it from the audience.
Yeah, that's right. Did you know on this date in 1982, John Lennon and Yoko Ono were awarded a Grammy Award for the Best Album of the Year for Double Fantasy. Yoko Ono received a standing ovation, and of course this came over a year after John had died.
Right. John Lennon was still huge back in the early 80s. I mean, it was so close at the time of his passing and the release of Double Fantasy that, he was still very big in the music world, just so you know.
Yep. On this date in 1986, it was the UK release of John Lennon's new album, John Lennon Live in New York City, which was an album just of a live concerts taped from 1972. And I actually won my copy of Live in New York City in a Beatles trivia contest.
Did you? What was the question for that?
It had something to do with the White Album, so that's
Really?
a long time ago. That's over 30 years ago.
What did you win, the album or cassette?
The album.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Vinyl, yeah.
We might have to do that here and give away some Beatle memorabilia once we start going with the live broadcast. Camcast,
And on this date in 1989, Ringo Starr released a new album on CD and vinyl. It was the Best of Ringo Starr Volume 2. Not a very big seller. Of course, it featured most of the stuff he had recorded since leaving Apple, and he didn't really have that many hits, so this wasn't much of a seller. But, you know, if you're a big Ringo fan, you definitely want to seek this one out.
It had, what, 4 songs?
Oh, full
I'm
length
just kidding.
album.
I'm just kidding. No, I like Ringo's stuff. Actually, one of my favorite albums from the early '70s is the Ringo album, which is, I think, really good, where the other Beatles actually perform on. That was like probably the closest thing to a Beatles reunion that we've ever gotten. You know, they weren't all together at the same time, but they all played on various Ringo songs individually.
Yeah.
And we also have to talk about in an upcoming episode a possible Beatles reunion that could have happened in the mid-'70s, but has been hushed up, or maybe it didn't happen at all. But there are some hints that it possibly did. We'll get into that later, though.
All right, excellent. All right, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.
All right, take care, guys. At ease.
So my dear friends, come back when you can.